Okay, this is another video about setting up your bass drum pedal. It's clear from the list of videos that I've put on that this is proven quite popular. So I wanted to go into it, just a couple more details that were left out on the last video. Okay, on the last one we talked about, just to recap, we talked about the strength here of the spring and how that can obviously affect the pedal setup. And in terms of sort of the amount of reaction you wanted to get from a pedal and how loose it should be or how hard it should be. Just a couple of extra tips then. What I wanted to talk to you about is something where you've got to get a bit of a balance point here. What is important is that you've got to think about the relationship between how far the beater is away from the skin and how that affects your playing. So obviously the closer it is, the quicker you're likely to get your bass pedal strikes, or beats, for want of a better word, and the further away the more power you're going to get. But what you want to do is try and, I would suggest, to get a balance in between the two. Because what happens is, this is the thing, when you get one of these pedals where you can adjust the angle of the beater by loosening this loosening with a drum key, this here, if I loosen that round, what happens is it makes this beater loose. It loosens that camshaft, if you like. Now, that's all well and good. If you start saying, right, well, I want the beater here and I want the beater here, but then what people forget about is the relationship between where you set this beater and the actual spring setting here. Because, let's give you an example. Say I put the beater kind of there, for example, just tightened up. Oh, it's fallen back a bit. That doesn't matter because it's going to give you a sort of, I want to give you sort of an over-the-top example. Okay, so now I've got my beater relatively far back here, which I think says, okay, I want lots of power. That's kind of what it's all about. So I'm getting lots of power. I'm sorry if that distorts the mic. I've set the mic for vocal, which is all well and good. Now, the only thing is here is you've got to think, okay, I've got this for power, but the stronger this spring is here, the more it's now going to start pulling this back. Okay, so if, for example, you had this setting and you found that it felt too light for your foot, and again, we're kind of taking it to extremes here. If I let off the spring tension here, it's quite tight, but anyway, so I let the spring tension off. You should, if you watch this, you should see how that starts to drop. It depends. You can't really see it too much because we're already at quite a fine adjustment. But basically, okay, that's not a big deal. What I wanted to get over was I'm loosening this, all right, to make it lighter, as it were. It's probably because this is a direct drive pedal that you don't see quite the same effect. But now I've loosened that, which is great. But the trouble is, now the feel under my pedal is much looser. So although yes, I've got this back here and I've got all that power, I may now have the totally wrong feel for my foot, and it's like the other way as well. If I then go and tighten that up loads, again, although you probably, to be honest, you won't be able to see it really, but if I tighten that up, make sure I'm doing it the right way. Okay, what you'll find is, sorry, bear with me, you'll find that, I need two ends for this, there we go. Okay, so now we've got this tighter, thinking, right, we need a heavier feel under our foot. But now the trouble is, you find that you've really got to hit really hard to get the pressure you want. And when it comes to doing small strokes, there's a huge amount of pressure you need up here to do it. So what I'm trying to get across to you is, it's all very well altering this beater angle here, but be very mindful of how the spring then affects the feel, because you've got two things affecting the feel of the bass drum. And lots of people, and that kind of seems dark, but people do forget that and wonder why they just can't get their bass foot feeling right. So that's something that there's no other way of doing it but fiddle around with it and experiment, but make sure you're adjusting one off against the other. Then you will finally get the feel that you want. For me, it's trying to get a balance between having the beater far back enough that I do get some power when I need it, but also, again, that beater angle just enough that when I'm here, I don't need the spring particularly tight, and then I can still get some really great fast little 16th notes or 32nd notes here when I need to. So that was my main point. Just make sure you adjust the two in unison with each other. The other thing I wanted to mention was, I don't think I mentioned in the last one, was beater height as well. Again, you've got to think about how that affects the feel of the pedal, all these different things. But like I say in a lot of the videos, it's all about experimenting. Don't be afraid to experiment. Otherwise you're never going to find out the feel you want. You're just never going to get what you're after if you're too sort of worried about upsetting the setting you've already got. Okay, now with this, again, if I loosen that off, if you have the beater right sort of full length, if you like, roughly like that, okay, what you are going to get is, compared to obviously if the beater was here, on all of your strokes you're going to get slightly more power, simply because physics, this beater's got to travel, it's a longer beater, so it's travelling further. Okay, now I know we've just talked about beater angle, but what I'm trying to say here again is that, say you had, this was the beater angle you wanted, if you then shortened this, for example, let's just redo that, if you shorten that down to there, sort of, again being a bit ridiculous here, I'm just sort of exaggerating slightly, okay, if we went down to here, again obviously your beater's got it's the same angle, on the camshaft, but you've still got a very short space for your beater to travel. Again, seems obvious, but people do forget it. And then if you're obviously up here, same angle again, haven't adjusted the camshaft, you've then got a much longer way for the bass to, the beater to travel. So you find you get much more power in all the strokes that you do. So again, and also you get a different feel, you get a kind of, it's weird, you get a kind of lighter feel the longer it is. Sometimes you get a lighter feel. When it gets too long it becomes heavy-ish. As you go back down you get that kind of lighter feel again, where it's probably just about right. And if you went silly, went really short, it becomes heavy again. That's the feel you get behind it. So for me, now remember it's personal preference, completely personal preference. I tend to just, what I'll do is I'll get it where I want it. In fact, I like that head, and then I push it against the skin, because that way I'm then making sure that the beater itself is flush and level with the head. You'd be surprised actually, the people that tighten it up without actually pushing against the head, and then you find the head is only hitting it on a corner, which it gives you a terrible bass sound. So for me, yeah, I mean, to be honest, I pretty much have mine directly in the centre. Now again, another thing to remember, ladies and gentlemen, is if your beater is further up or further down, you're obviously going to be striking different parts of the head as well. You're not going to be striking it in the centre. Now that may be something you want, and you will get different sounds, but if you want a full resonant sound, and a sound that you can then adjust with pillows or whatever, when you know you're getting a full normal sound, basically head for the centre of the drum head. Okay, and that's pretty much what I do. So I think that's kind of it really. Along with the other video, that should have covered all the angles. So really today, it's just making sure the angle on the camshaft here is done in unison with the spring tension here. And the height of the beater, again, probably I'd say the centre of the head, but that does give you a feel. And of course, the one last thing, and this is very, very much dependent upon the model of bass pedal you have. When you adjust the camshaft, I'm pretty sure it's called a camshaft. Probably find out I've been calling it the wrong name all this time. Obviously, what it will do, it adjusts the height of the pedal. So again, you see, you've got to consider that. If you, I prefer it, so the feeling is that the pedal is quite high, so I know that my foot, I've got a feeling that my foot is travelling a fair distance when I want a big, powerful stroke. So, you know, again, if you're, I wonder if I can do it on here. Let's see, if I, yeah, it's not quite the same on this one. But what you can end up doing on some of them, you can have the pedal kind of here, and then you can actually pull the, you can have the beta there, and you can pull the pedal right up. So there are, again, on some of them, there are different levels that you can adjust the pedal. This is the Yamaha Direct Drive. This is a beauty, particularly for heel down players, because the way the Direct Drive works, with this solid piece of steel rather than a chain, the pedal really follows your foot up. It feels like it's stuck to the bottom of your foot, which is a fantastic feel. So that's why I can't really demonstrate, because it's not flexible. But hopefully you get the idea with that. So there we are. Those are the three things: the angle of the board, the height of the board, the angle of the beta, and the length of the beta, and this spring tension here. Okay. One last myth I want to dispel, or kind of misunderstanding, is with the spring here. Some guys think, right, I want a really fast bass drum and I want my pedal to help me as much as possible, and I think we're all like that. We all like a bit of help from a good pedal. But bear in mind, they think this automatic assumption that if this is really tight, so it's springing back really fast, you're going to get a really fast bass stroke, which is complete nonsense, really, because all it does is make it really hard to push down. So what you find is you're sacrificing the need to push down really hard to get the beta to the head. Okay, then it's springing back really fast, but then you have to push down again. So most people, like I say, not everything I say is 100%, but it's from experience. But most people I know, and myself, you find that you kind of get quite more on the loose side with this spring than the heavy side for faster bass work. Okay, so that's just a little tip. So hopefully that'll help you set your bass pedal up as efficiently as possible. And what goes for this goes exactly the same if it's a double bass setup. Exactly the same principles apply. I hope that's of help.